This is a special presentation from UFC Fight Pass. Step into our world at UFCFightPass.com.
Hi, everybody. I've had an absolute blast recording your championship intros on audio and also on video. And for those of you that didn't know, the videos can be done special exactly the way you like them, because these are green screens and we can do them with a scene behind me. Do you want a fighting scene? Do you want a beach scene? Do you want a race car scene? Any scene you want, we can give it to you. It's your theme and my pleasure. Just write our offices and we will answer you with the exact fee involved and how it'll get done. So here we are, and now it's time, and it's your choice. Cheers!
From the shores of Malibu where the waves are pumping, to the Great Wall of China, and back to the streets of Las Vegas where the UFC is coming. We are live. This is It's Time Radio, the show where we talk about what you think about, but may be afraid to voice. Do not worry. We will voice it for you. It's all talked about on It's Time. It's no holds barred radio, folks. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, UFC, entertainment, sports, politics. You name it, we talk about it. We're going to talk about it today. I'm here with my co-host, TJ DeSantis. TJ, how are you?
I'm good. I've been a little bit under the weather, and I thought I was on the other side of it. But right now I'm seeing double.
I'm seeing double too. And those of you that think you're seeing double also, don't worry. You are, but you're not, but you are, but you're not. This is Jason and John Anik. Come on, the John Anik, the amazing commentator, the best commentator in the world from the UFC. God knows he could do any sport there is, and I know he's capable, and we're so lucky to have him. But we're also lucky to have Jason Anik. Look at this, the twins. How do you tell the two apart? Hair, baby. Hair, baby. That's it right there. All the hair. Hi, guys. How are you?
Incredible, man. Such an honor to be with you boys. Talk about the hair. I actually had 8 inches taken off today, believe it or not, but we still flowing, Buff.
Love the pause after I had 8 inches. It's okay. It's all good.
I'm just jealous that he's got hair and he's bragging about removing 8 inches of it. Like, yeah, wow.
And this is always the point of the program where I have to defend my decision to give myself a skin fade every 3 days, as I've done essentially since I was 14 years of age. We don't do a lot of this co-promotion, so to speak, and my face looks so fat next to his. So I don't know how many times we're going to do this, but I digress.
You know what's
right,
crazy?
well,
this is what's hard for me. Sorry to cut you off, Buffer. Like, I look at my camera up here because that's what I'm supposed to do. You guys are down here. And your voices are so similar, and I've talked to both of you. Like, I understand who is who for the most part, but there's like a half octave off a little bit. Maybe Jason's a tiny bit nasally. No offense, Jason. That's what sort of allows me to like know who's talking. But if I look down here at all, it's because I got lost. I don't know who's talking. So just let you know.
Well, I'm glad you described the difference.
Yeah, go ahead, Buff.
I'm glad you described the difference because those of you, we're on video on YouTube, of course. Please subscribe if you're watching the show.
Subscribe.
But the audience, subscribe. Did I say that wrong?
No,
like,
I just
comment,
was screaming
subscribe.
at people who are not subscribing. Seemingly, what are they doing with their lives?
I don't know. It's amazing, isn't it? But if you're listening on audio, whether it's Spotify or iTunes or whatever, if you're confused, we can always remind you who's who. There you go.
They'll figure it out.
No problem.
Well, I will say, when we started an NFL podcast together called Anik Squared, there was a conversation as to whether or not we could do that because we sound similar. Thankfully, my voice has been so damaged, and TJ can attest as a play-by-play guy for however many years, but my voice has been octavely damaged by video games and calling fights. So there is, I think, a differentiation. And I think I just naturally sound tougher, even though in an arm wrestling setting or pure strength, he beats me every day of the week. But vocally, I think I sound tougher.
Yeah, do you really believe that your voice has been damaged?
Oh.
Sorry, TJ. Do you really believe your voice has been damaged?
Well, I can tell you, just as recently as Sean Strickland over Israel Adesanya, in the moment in round 1, I thought I was about to call a Sean Strickland knockout in that round. So I certainly wasn't using my diaphragm properly. And yeah, I fucking ripped my voice apart. You obviously are a master at using your voice well. For me, though, sometimes I don't have the luxury of time and I have to respond in the moment. And yeah, but like the first time I did a video game, real quick, I had to recall, TJ's heard this before, McGregor versus Aldo, that 13-second fight, as if I had called that fight 4 times. Imagine having to do that fight at the height of intensity 4 times. I feel like I destroy my voice trying to somehow capture a call in that moment that's impossible to duplicate.
That reminds me of the fact the first time I ever recorded a UFC game, right? I had 2,000 takes, right?
Oh my
I did
God.
them. I did it all in one day. I did the whole thing in one day. I got laryngitis. I hurt my throat, everything. And it all came back about the day before UFC that I had to do. And I still wasn't on top of it. That's when I learned the fact there's such a thing as a 2 to 4 hour session,
Right.
and do it 3-4 days, not all in one day. This is going back like 20 some years. So totally can understand, John. Totally can understand. Hey, listen, guys, all I can say is Vegas, baby. Vegas, baby. We had fun. We hung out in Vegas last week, with Ronnie, big roller Ronnie. That was a lot of fun. Thursday night, watching the Eagles and scattering to see, where we could watch him. And how did I break his iPad? I don't remember this.
Well, I'm going to defer to Jason here, but upon further review, it doesn't appear as though you necessarily did. And perhaps I went to the Anik and Florian podcast airwaves with misinformation, but Ronnie had maybe insinuated that you had, but now he quickly deflected and suggested that you were just closest to it when it fell off the counter. So this iPad sits on this like bar area all day, and he says this has fallen off many times. It fell off at some point, and Buff was there, Ronnie was there, maybe Dom Cruz, some other people might have been in the vicinity. Ron just closed it up, put it on the shelf. He wakes up the next morning and it's cracked up in the right screen, but he wasn't necessarily laying blame anywhere. I think your boy here decided to sort of run with it a little bit because you were in the vicinity.
Got it.
Now,
it.
let me
Unbelievable, though.
Does this iPad have a proper like OtterBox case on it? Because if you're telling me this thing drops repeatedly, this is Ronnie's problem. Like it's his fault.
Well, you're right, and it has a very significant case. Probably like an auto. It was the perfect storm. Just cracked in the top left corner, but a couple $100 to get it fixed. But this guy just likes telling stories. But I don't know. Ronnie, we might need to have Ronnie on to find out the full story.
The problem is a couple $100 to fix it. It's like also like $100 more to buy a brand new iPad. That's how they get you.
Let me just give myself a pat on the back. I saw this tweet, or I have a hard time saying X. I still call it tweet, that you put out, John. What did I do? Right away, I responded, happy to pay for it, right? If I did it, I'm happy to pay for it.
Of course. I just can't even believe that I'm getting dragged through the mud, right? Because if you had watched this all play out, Buff, from my vantage point, I was an innocent bystander and I thought it would be a fun podcast bit. They gave me the fucking invoice, right? But my man Ronnie is as gracious as any individual I've ever met. But I do think that he needs to be heard on this. He's the source.
Well, I got to say, while we're on the subject of that night, you said it was a beautiful suite. It was one of those classic. It was the old Hard Rock, right? Yeah, the old Hard Rock, which I'd partied in those suites many times over the years. But what a magnificent suite it was. He brought in from one steakhouse. He gave us, brought in a beautiful dinner for all of us. We watched the game. We won the game. We go downstairs. We gamble. And something I have never done in my life, which you got on video. I'm not a big roulette player because like the worst odds in the casino, unless you're playing red or black. And I hit lucky number 13 for a nice big payday, which I didn't even realize. You guys told me I hit it. And I'm like, wow. I was with Charles Barkley one night when he was down $1 million in the casino and trying to win it all back in roulette. It was his birthday and we're partying together. And he plays 13 numbers, $7,000 a number, right? On the thing, collecting these huge, and I watched him win $500,000 in roulette. And I'm like, this is one lucky guy. I really felt lucky.
$91,000 spin, $91,000 spin for Sir Charles.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anywho, that was a fun night. Thank you, Ronnie. Really appreciate all that. Jason, John's got his podcast. We've got our podcast. I can't keep track how many podcasts John has. Tell us about your podcast with Bilal, who's one of my favorite people and personalities in the UFC.
So much appreciate you asking. Yeah. So we're going on now almost 115 episodes. We started this podcast called Remember the Show back in September of 2020. And John named it. And he really does a great job breaking this whole thing down. But he really wanted to, I was in the process of selling a business and sort of transitioning. And he wanted to sort of set me up doing a podcast with a fighter on the UFC roster that maybe wasn't super high profile at this stage, but he thought had sort of championship aspirations or championship potential, but also would show up every week and would, you know, be ready to go on the show and be prepared, and had a social media following, which Bilal did. So it sort of happened very organically. And so we've been going now 3 full years, about 115 episodes. We're hoping to be on Fight Pass starting in 2024, but it's fun. It's not, you know, when John first brought it to my attention, he said, you want to do this podcast? And I'm like, you know, everyone has a podcast. Not really. Like, what's going to differentiate this? And really the differentiator is we have a game show. It's a lot like Jeopardy. We have some really cool categories. We usually bring on 2 fighters, or a fighter and a media personality. I'm just realizing now Bruce Buffer has not been on Remember. There are a lot of high profile people like you, Bruce, who have yet to grace, but we've had, you know, a couple hundred guests. You know, we have certain categories where it'll mash 2 fighter faces together. You have to guess the fighters, but it's, you know, it's just fun. And it's been great to get to know Bilal. He's as good as it gets. When we started the show, he was unranked. Now he's going to fight for the welterweight title.
It's awesome. And as far as, you know, high level people, what did you say, on your type guests you have on your show? What was the term you use? High profile. I won't be high profile until I'm on your show, and I'm on your show, John. again.
Yeah. So at dinner, Buff made this proclamation to the table that he had never been on the Anik and Florian podcast.
Well,
right? He's been on the
My memory evades me.
Well, no, that's fine. Perhaps he hasn't been featured as much as he should be relative to his celebrity or our friendship, right? Certainly our friendship leads the dance, but he's been on the show thrice. Once actually in studio with me and Kenny in LA, TJ, if you recall. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, Buff, it's an open invitation. Anytime you want to come on the program, we'll roll out the red carpet, have as many minutes as you want.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll ask you one favor. It's Time Cologne is still the top selling cologne on Amazon here in the States and in Europe and in England. We're going to be hitting all the stores here real soon. So I always say never sell from an empty shelf. So if I can come on and show a little bit and then we can talk life in general, I'm all about it. So,
and I'm all about scents. I just bought a very expensive bottle of perfume. Yes, I wear women's scents. A very expensive bottle. I'm not going to promote another scent right here on.
Okay.
Oh, don't let the secret out either, man. Like that's going to be a mystery now. That's going to be a trivia question one day on Remember the Show.
Yeah,
the secret he just released is that he wears women's perfume.
Right.
That's
yes, I 100% buy unisex scents and perfume. This one actually leans more towards cologne as a unisex scent, if I'm being totally truthful. But yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to say any more about it. But yes, the mystery continues when it comes to my scent. But ask the ladies out there what they think of it. Oh, it smells incredible. It smells absolutely incredible. Probably almost as good as It's Time.
I love it. I love it. Hey, John, I don't mind you wearing women's perfume. I think it's fantastic. As long as you don't wear women's lingerie like Oscar De La Hoya, you're cool.
Never been there. Never been there. You know, but hey, Oscar was under the influence, you know, so I can't, you know, if you put those drugs in my body, I probably would allow you to put me in lingerie. So.
By the way, that was a really good special they had on him over that 3-part special, I think, on Oscar De La Hoya. I highly recommend anybody that's into boxing or a fan of Oscar De La Hoya watch it. And it's amazing how when that situation happened, they denied it, said Photoshop, the whole bit. But of course, it wasn't Photoshop, you know, a whole nother story. Okay, I want to go into a couple things here, but before we do, let's talk about the one big question that came off on the show last Saturday night, which, of course, Jason, you're Octagon side for, John, you're Octagon side for. Jason, by the way, John's always into his thing. You know, he's so intense. He's so great at what he does. And occasionally we catch eyes with each other, and it's just, you know, like that. But I've got to kind of hold my face a little bit because you crack me up sometimes when I look over, when you give me little mows, and I got to like stay in my buffer zone, you know, going out there, but I'm ready just to like big smile walking out.
I'm telling you, and you get me fired up. There are plenty of times where I want to stand up, be like, let's go, Buff. You get me going, but I'm trying to be subdued. But yeah, I'm trying to get you going a little bit.
No, keep it up. Oh, just no problem. I love it. Enjoy the show. Let it all flow. Okay, here we go. Raul Rosas Jr., very impressed. This 18-year-old. He's got such a bright future ahead of him. Love the class he handles himself with. Love the style. Loved his after speech. Loved his confidence. I'm really going to look forward to watching the evolutionary process of this young fighter. It's going to be awesome. But let's talk about the big controversy in the Alexa Grasso Valentina Shevchenko championship fight. Amazing fight, right? Amazing. The trilogy, I can't wait. You know, obviously, Valentina hurt her thumb to whatever level she hurt it. 5th round, boys, 10-8. How you feel?
Well, I feel great about Raul Rosas Jr. And I do like when he goes non-classy and says things on an open microphone, like I'm going to take out the trash for Dana White.
That's
But-
not that bad compared to some other stuff I've heard from other fighters.
No, you're right. But I like that he is willing to let that side of himself out, because it's very hard to develop a brand when you're not true to who you are. The 10-8 round, I mean, I'll try to say this as efficiently as possible. Dominance, damage, duration, the 3 Ds. When you're trying to determine whether or not you're going to score around 10-8 versus 10-9, that is your jumping off point. So that was not a dominant round. So it's a particularly bad scorecard in a very high profile championship setting. And so it once again, in a major high profile way, brings the scoring and judging conversation to the forefront. Only Mike Bell knows if he was trying to sort of affect change when it comes to this fight. And I do believe the judges don't have a lot of tools. They don't have half points. And yeah, I mean, maybe Mike Bell got to that point. He's like, man, you know, I really don't feel like Valentina won this fight. I think maybe kind of Alexa did, or a draw is the most rightful score in totality. And so he goes 10-8 there, or if he was just caught up by his angle or the moment, right? But it's a particularly bad scorecard and a really disappointing, you know, narrative coming out of an all-time great fight.
Here's my issue with it, guys. If you don't mind, Buff, I just want to, because I've been very passionate about 10-8s for a very long time. I think they're very necessary, especially when it comes to what John said. You're not allowed to use half points. You know, not very often do we see 2 rounds very equal, where we'll see a strong 10-9. It's like, why is that not a 10-8? We'll see a very close round. It's like, how is that dominant 10-9? You know, a toss-up to this guy, you know, barely winning that round. I feel like there's an issue with certain judges. I'm not going to say this is necessarily Mike Bell's prerogative by any means, but I feel like there are certain times where certain judges look for 10-8s, and when you're looking for a 10-8, that's a problem because, you know, you mentioned the 3 Ds. 10-8s don't have to be, at least to me, I don't think they're debatable. Sometimes it can be borderline 10-8, 10-9, but if it's a 10-8, it's a 10-8. And for me, I'm not writing down 10-8 if I'm going to have to defend it in any way, shape, or form, because that's the whole point of a 10-8. It's supposed to be dominant duration and damage. And yeah, when you see it, you see it and you should score it. It shouldn't be debatable.
So with that explanation in the earlier round, which Valentina, you know, was very dominant to a large extent in the first 3 rounds, give or take, she got knocked down. So when you get knocked down, why could that not have been a 10-8 round? Was it because of the fact that she was dominant throughout the rest of the round?
Yeah.
So the knockdown, as it relates to mixed martial arts and a 10-8, you got to be real careful with that, because it means something in boxing and it really doesn't mean something like that in our sport. And I actually think the nature in which Valentina sort of flipped out of it suggests that she was equal parts off balance as she was sort of knocked down. It was a hard shot, don't get me wrong, but it seems like people will talk about particular strikes however they want it to fit their narrative, right? Like the elbow that Valentina used to cut Alexa open and her continual jab to that spot. It doesn't want to be acknowledged by some people. I mean, we could spend 25 minutes, Buff, on this particular fight. The round 3 submission from Valentina was a tighter submission, but it didn't have 19,000 Mexicans screaming about it, right? I mean, there's so many different factors and immediate things we could do when it comes to judges. I mean, they certainly don't need to be on the fucking apron. Put them in a back room.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. Like, that is the one thing. The best seat in the house is your house. Put them in a different room, give them a monitor, take away the commentary feed, and let them see from every angle so they can come up with the right score.
I'm with you. I'm with you all the way. So enough said on that. It is what it is. They're going to be a trilogy. Can't wait for the trilogy. It's going to be awesome. Tracy Cortez, love the fact she spent 3 rounds striking, showing a different Tracy Cortez. She's definitely due. Not that Jasmine was not a very game opponent as she was, but it's time to step up, fighting top 10 fighters. Tracy Cortez, you know, moving up in ranks. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And Jazavicius is tough and a
Tough.
out. And how about that fight was impressive. They do not like each other. Very, very rare to see no respect at the end of the fight as well. But no, at the very end, they didn't. Tracy Cortez wanted to be respectful. Jasmine wanted nothing to do with it. And forgive me, I'm not remembering her opponent in her last fight, but she impressed the shit out of me. I think that All Canada card, if I'm in Vancouver.
It was Miranda Maverick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, great to see Tracy Cortez out there physically. I thought she's great looking to look at physically, but she was in incredible shape. And then she was sitting a couple rows back on the floor watching the fights, which I always love to see right after. So she seems to be in a great place. I loved watching her fight.
Oh,
And I have to say one thing, you know, I don't find a lot of people out there that thought Grasso won the fight. And so because it is 10-8, I don't think there's not too much talk about the guy that scored the fight for Grasso. Or is that?
No, there's a segment of people.
there-
TJ, I don't know what you've heard, but I feel like there are definitely a lot of people out there that thought Alexa Grasso won the fight in totality and won 3 rounds to 2.
Yeah.
From,
Okay.
from what I've heard, the percentage of people that I've talked to, it's roughly like 60-40 or 70-30 for Shevchenko. But as you mentioned, you know, Grasso has her supporters, and people thought that she won the fight.
Hey, when I went to the desk, because I'm aside from the commission on the first one and know the scores, I would have been okay either way. You know, it was 29-28 across the board. I would have had no problem with that. But it is what it is, and we'll see what the future holds. Tracy Cortez, she got pissed off when Jasmine grabbed her hair. Man, I have not seen a hair grab since the early days of the UFC or that famous Eric Paulson fight where for 15 minutes his opponent held his head and punched him in the face. If you remember the old days of the UFC, if I was fighting you, Jason, if I was fighting you, brother, the first thing I'm doing, man, I'm going to grab the back of your head.
100% in a street fight.
Yes, a street fight.
Grab your hair too, Buff. Me and TJ, sleek.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Not a choice for me though.
Elbows and knees for you guys. Elbows and knees. All good.
Hey, real quick, this would be an interesting fight because now you have this 125-pound division that is a little bit on hold at the very top. For me, I think Erin Blanchfield is the #1 contender. You mentioned Tracy Cortez. I don't know if she necessarily deserves a title eliminator, but she does have the lone win over Erin Blanchfield, and it was a fight that I thought was contentious. If Blanchfield has to sit while Shevchenko and Grasso do their thing for a third straight time, I'd love to see Cortez and Blanchfield fight again.
Yeah, I just want to see her fight top 10 fighters moving forward.
Why does everybody have to bang on the French though? I mean, what does Manon Fior need to do exactly to earn a championship opportunity, right? I mean, Manon Fior, I think in a meritocracy is actually, excuse me, the #1 contender. Blanchfield's young, and I don't think she's in any rush, but obviously the more #1 contender type fights you take, the greater the chances you lose one of those and don't actually fight for the world title. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea for some of these women to have to take a fight. But in terms of Tracy Cortez and her viability as top 5 fighter or UFC headliner, like I'd like to see Tracy Cortez get a goddamn main event. But as far as her being top 5 ready, I think she's ready. On any given Saturday night, I think she's ready.
I do too. And one last thing about the show, Roman Kopylov.
Oh my gosh. Oh, the guy just hands out concussions and then goes to the body. He's just an absolute destroyer. I mean, I'd imagine like you are prepared to spend the night at the hospital when you fight him. He's got a chin too.
He's got a chin, but also he's got a twin. You guys are twins. What's the name of the other fighter? They look exactly alike.
Oh, Chase Hooper.
Yes, right? It's amazing how much alike they look. Seriously.
Oh man, that's good.
Okay, so let's go on to some news here. I want to go over a couple things. I'm disgusted by some of these stories. Last weekend, the fight that broke out at the Patriots game against Miami, 30-year season ticket holder, 53-year-old man in front of his son. They say he was brutally beaten, but whatever happened, I did see some punches. It was ridiculous, and they applied 10 minutes of CPR and everything to him, but he passed away. There's no sports game that's more important than someone's life, and for fights to break out, I see a lot of this happening all the time. I'm dumbfounded. I don't know what to say, other than my heart goes out to this man, his family, and for his son to be there with him, much less anybody in his family to see this happen. It's horrific. John, you've been in Patriot games, your whole life. I know Philadelphia games and other places are known for the fights that break out. Is this a common thing at the Patriots game?
Not to my
death, but fights.
Been a season ticket holder for a while, but there's certainly a segment of people that will acknowledge Bostonians as being a particularly verbal crowd, and I think a capably verbal crowd, right? So they can say some things that can really get under the skin of athletes or other fans. But for there to be like an act like this that ends up fatal, it's hugely disturbing. Unfortunately, we're in a society now where you know, I tell my wife to be careful, not even looking at anybody when she has road rage, right? Because you never know if they're going to pull out a gun or just try to run you off the road. And yeah, we also live in a society that glorifies violence. And I'm certainly not talking about mixed martial arts, but, you know, these movies that, you know, have MMA in it would do the sport a great justice to not make it seem like it's some fucking really violent shit, you know? But yeah, it's sad, man. Really sad.
Really
you
sad.
mentioned,
What's
you
also
mentioned
sad-
the road rage thing there. I've been in LA now for 10 years, almost 10 years, 10 years next month. And I was here about a week before I realized that I had to drive everywhere because my wife was either going to get me beaten up or killed, because I'm not beating up anybody in a street fight. And I'd have to defend her honor because she picks fights with she's a mild-mannered woman. She gets behind the wheel, she's dropping the C word, she's flipping everybody off. Like it's somehow a race. She needs to get in front of everyone. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's got to stop. That's got to stop.
It stopped. Like I said, I've driven everywhere for the last decade.
You talk about road rage. Catch that movie with the Gladiator star. God, I'm brain farting. Do you see the road rage film he did?
I don't
Russell
know.
Crowe?
No.
Help me out, guys. The star Gladiator.
Yeah, he's a Russell
brain
Crowe.
I'll
farting.
talk
That's who
about
it
the
is.
NFL week 3. You want some week 3 NFL picks? I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, let's forget that one. Let's forget that one.
Hey,
We're gonna go
check
on to
out-
that. We're gonna go on to the picks, but there's another story here that I'm disgusted by. We live in a day and
The
age.
news. We got anything positive out there?
Dude,
Jesus
Buffer's
Yeah,
the
we're gonna
worst
get
at
it. We're gonna
this.
get on the
He's
pause.
the
We're gonna
worst.
go into some sports, but this kind of really hit me the wrong way. There's 2 more stories hit me the wrong way. This Instagram influencer, you know, again, people are famous today not for talent, they're famous today for, you know, or whatever on Instagram. She's telling everybody to F off on the plane. And as you know, and she's taking her bag, and for some reason she has to leave the plane. This is a story. I'm not even going to mention her name because I don't want to give her any more publicity. She's got 975,000 followers on Instagram. And as she's walking off, telling people to F off, she goes, F off, I'm Instagram famous. When I heard that, I almost threw up my Cheerios. It's like, you go through life. Is that what this is about? I'm Instagram famous. Does that bother you? Just those 2 words, it just hit me wrong.
It's awful, man. I don't even know what to say. You're real famous, Buff. You're not Instagram famous. That is a terrible, terrible term. And yeah, as somebody who has 3 children, I just hope one of them doesn't ever say to me, Daddy, I'm Instagram famous, right? And certainly as a public figure with children, right? I am purposefully not allowing my children to have a head start, right? But could you imagine, right? If like my daughter wants a little bump from my fucking
yeah.
Instagram follow today, you know, like how's that going to go? How's that conversation going to go?
So that's the thing.
I've
like,
actually had conversations with young people when I met, even like, you know, girls will come and talk to me and they'll say like, well, how many followers do you have? I mean, is that a conversation? How many followers you have? Anyway, this is one of your typical, they're kind of cookie cutted looking Instagram influencers or whatever. So it caused a big brouhaha, but she got an offer the next day from a porno site for $25,000 to post nudes. So, okay, there's your
course you did.
future. Go for it.
See, here's
for
the
it.
issue. Is like I've showed my son what I do, you know, calling fights and you know, podcasts and things like that, and he just doesn't care. And then one day he sees this show on YouTube, and he's like, "Wait, you're a YouTuber?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a YouTuber. Like this is like YouTube's a medium, and this show's on YouTube." He's like, "My dad's a fucking YouTuber." I'm like, "No, stop it. I'm not." But yeah, so like it just drives me crazy. But that's all kids want. You know, they all want to be, Instagram famous or just influencers or on YouTube, and it just drives me absolutely crazy.
Well, I'll say it again. I'll say it for the last time on the show, but I come from the world of you're well known for talent, accomplishments, you know, doing good things for the world. It's changed, my friends. It's changed. And I don't know if it's going to go back or get better, but we'll leave it at that. One other story that really it broke my heart. You probably saw this video of these 2 kids driving on the street in an open road in Las Vegas or in Nevada. And they're aiming towards a guy that's riding his bike, right? And they purposely hit him. And you see him hit the front of the car, go over the back of the car, and he died. He's a retired police chief from Bell, California. And they're laughing after they hit him. Did you see this, Jason?
Oh,
No, I
It's
didn't see that.
horrible. It's all over the news. It's disgusting. The 17-year-old driver.
And they
Okay, they
uploaded
did
this
arrest him.
too?
It's uploaded. The videos are all over. I can send it. Go to TMZ. It's on TMZ. Go to the news. It's all over the place.
I mean,
Right?
not that
And
makes
it's
it
just
any better, but like, my God, what are you doing?
well, what happened is they didn't upload it. Somebody got the video at school. Okay. And then when the police got and they gave it to the police, and when they got police got a hold of it, they arrested the 17-year-old for murder. He'll probably be tried as an adult. And then the passenger who was filming and laughing with him, they didn't know sure what to do. But now what they've done is they've decided to, if I have this here correctly, I do. They have decided to arrest the passenger, and he's also going to be tried as an adult. But here's the horrific thing.
As what, though? Like an accessory? Like, what are they charging him with?
That has not come out clearly yet.
Okay.
Just that he's been arrested. It's not been clearly yet. It's
I mean,
Clark
I would
County
assume
arrest.
there's some sort of law about, being a good Samaritan or something. Like, if you witness something like that, you're supposed to call. I don't know. This is disgusting.
He wasn't a witness. He was involved. He was filming and laughing with him. And here's the thing. Before they ran over the police chief, the retired police chief, and I'm looking at a picture of this gentleman, I'm like, I can't even believe what his family's going through right now.
Can we talk about football?
I mean,
Another person on a bike, while the person that was the passenger that filmed it when they hit the police chief was driving the vehicle. These two guys go to jail, go to hell, go whatever. It's just try them as an adult. Their lives are ruined, but but look at the lives they've ruined otherwise. Again, if you saw the story, you'd probably be more into it. It just really grinds my gears when I read this. It really hit me hard.
that's disturbing.
What's
Give us
that?
give us an uplifting story now, Buff. Come on.
Okay, now we're going to go on.
Kill
We're going to
him
go
right
on to the good stuff. We're going to go on to the good stuff. I'm ready to go. So let's talk about some sports. And then we'll go into football. ABC, because of the writer's strike, we had 2 games on Monday night. We're going to have 10 weeks like that this season where there's going to be 2 games on Monday night.
Wow.
They're trying to plug the hole with the writer's strike, which I think is cool.
And the writers of the NFL and how games end, they're just working overtime right now, too,
Well, and you get different fans who have different opinions on this. Mike Florio, who he's sick of me talking about on Pro Football Focus, he doesn't like having 2 games on one night. He likes being able to focus on one game. I'm on the other hand, I can't get enough commercial, bang, flip. I love 2 games. To me, Sundays, it's almost overload for me. I don't know where to go. I don't always ingest all I want in all these games, but that to me, Monday night, having 2 games to flip between that are offset a little bit, sign me up.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm all
That's
for
my
it.
Saturday. College football is where it's at, man. Like, I wish it wasn't on Saturday. I wish it wasn't on fight day. I can watch football from 9 a.m. to 1 in the morning.
Well, I'll tell you one of the biggest bummers this season is because I have DirecTV for years, and I had the season pass, which was like $60. But now you got to go to YouTube and pay over $500 for it.
Now, or like there's little promos everywhere. You can get it for half off, or end up getting like you extend to your cell phone contract with some service. They'll give it to you for free.
Well, I mean, I got no problem spending the money, but it just seems like a ridiculous price. The average person can't afford it.
Buffer?
It's ridiculous. No, I'm not going to spend $500 out of principle. Okay.
Oh.
But think about the average family out there. You're asking the average family making $60,000 or whatever it is a year to spend $500. That's crazy.
Yeah. I guess the only caveat to that would be that my mother purchased it, right? And she is able to then share that link with people, right?
There you go.
Are you allowed to?
Yeah,
to?
you can.
Don't ask those questions, Buffer.
All right, cool. Hey, John, have your mother text me the link. I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. We go forgiveness over permission. But these packages were like, I had DirecTV for years because that was the only way I could watch the Patriots down in Florida. So every time I'm moving, I'm putting a satellite dish on my apartment or my house. So my wife was glad when we didn't have to do DirecTV anymore. But these packages, it's for me right now, as I get older, I'm not as interested in focusing on the Patriots necessarily. I don't have to watch every snap of the Patriots. So for me, being able to watch 4 games at once, can't get enough.
Wow. Well, can't get enough. Can't get enough is Patrick Mahomes. Just signed that new 4-year deal, $210 million. Probably by the end of 2026, going to be $218 million. Good for him, man. That's a lot of money.
The NFL is just so great right now. There's so many quarterbacks that deserve all these max contracts that are going out. Some teams look really bad early on, but the football itself has been as great and compelling as ever. We had Daniel Cormier on our NFL podcast earlier today, and for just the three of us, the two of us in DC, just speaking for those three individuals, we can't possibly verbalize how exciting Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern is, or for him, Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific for those 18 weeks. There's just nothing like the anticipation of a full stack NFL Sunday for sports fans like us. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Buff, it's amazing how many fighters are not interested in other sports. I've never, even a guy like Kenny Florian, when we were with him recently at International Fight Week, yeah, maybe growing up in New England, but now he is much more focused on fighting. And some of these guys, like even Bilal Muhammad, lives in Chicago. He's a Bears fan, probably much more interested in the PFL on a random Wednesday, or Contender Series last night than Sunday. A lot of these fighters like they're fighting, and that's really paramount for them.
I love fighting, but when I'm not
fans too. A lot of hardcore MMA fans don't watch any other sports, and it's like you're willing to give up 8 hours on a Saturday for UFC, but no stick and ball sports at all.
Right.
Personally, I love fighting.
It's crazy.
Personally, I love fighting, boxing, all MMA, UFC, of course. I'll get home and rewatch fights from the show I did because I want to see the fights on TV to watch them closer. But I rarely watch any of the other shows.
I think,
and Puncher's Chance is a major sponsor of the PFL, and I don't even watch the PFL.
I think for a lot of people, when it comes to traditional sports, it's whether or not you play fantasy, because I know so many people that don't really care or didn't care much about the game of football, but now they're running, 6 fantasy teams, and they're curious, how the second string running back is doing for some club. You know what I mean? So it's interesting how much that has changed.
Yeah, well, you talk about that, the fantasy. Phil Mickelson just came out, the golfer. He's a gambling addict. He's in recovery right now.
Oh, not necessarily breaking news. That guy's been laying fat for years. He's been he has been a huge gambler. I've probably known he was a gambler for like 25 years. Just heavy. But that's all right. He's made plenty of money playing golf too. But man, a lot of these guys, Jordan, they can't get enough.
They estimate he's placed $1 billion in bets over the last 30 years.
But it's really not that big a number, right? When you think about it,
average it out.
I'm just saying the two of us, right? Just the two of us dating to the late 1990s have bet at least $250,000 just betting against the Boston teams. Never mind all the other bets we've placed. So it's not as big when you have a lot of years, right? We've had a lot of losses, obviously, but yes, when like the Eagles beat the Patriots in a Super Bowl, we cash a lot of money. But when you have years like we do, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, over 27 years, it's not that much money, No,
that's true. Right? Yeah. But you think about if, what do you think is a good ratio? I think if you win, let's say 70% of your bets, you're actually a very successful bettor. What would you say?
70% buffer? Oh my God.
56%. Buff, you track yours though, which is what everybody.
I track mine. I win at least 80% of my football bets over the season.
And you know what you should do? Bet progressively and up all of your bets, because even the most successful professional bettors don't hit north of 60%. I mean, maybe they have stretches.
I've had, and I can prove it. I'll show you the list. The last 3 years, I have gone basically 90 to 100% in the playoffs, from the very first playoff to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he plays a lot of favorites. He buys points, and you're a fucking savage. So
I appreciate that. My ruling, 3.7 point for those people that are trying to understand what we're talking about point spreads in football. 3.7, 3, 7, 10, 3, 7, 9, 10, and 14. Take the favorite, you buy it down 0.5 point. Take the dog, you buy it up 0.5 point. That's just standard rule. And I can't begin to tell you how many bets that has won percentage-wise. Now, John, you
broke that down to me when we were together in Vegas, and it really struck a nerve with me, because it is unbelievable how often Vegas gets these numbers right. And so if you're consistently tweaking them a little bit, I can understand how that can benefit you in the long run, especially if you're tracking it in a disciplined manner the way you do. I don't track enough, what you.
But that's the thing. I mean, how many, and we're going to go on to the points in the games now, but real quick, the reason I track it is, how many times have you had a guy come up to you and say, hey, I won $5,000 right in Vegas, however they won it. They don't tell you about the 10 to 20 times they lost 3. It's always about that one time, So anyway,
I only post my winning sports tickets on Instagram. I don't post my losers.
case in point.
I'm 100% in all the bets that I won. So
All right, well, let's go on. Let's talk about winning this weekend. Actually, I won 80% last weekend, which screwed up a 10-team parlay I had that would have paid like $23,000 for a $70 bet. Crazy.
a
But anyway, that's
10-team
all the
parlay?
past. Yeah, my boy Henry and I, who I'm so proud about. I got to give Henry, my godson, credit. My 18-year-old godson. We celebrated last night at dinner. He's leaving today. He just landed in Oregon. He's going to the University of Oregon.
Love
So,
it.
yeah, and he's a really good handicapper. I do my own, but he's going to send me a 10-team parlay every week that I'm going to make a little bet, and we'll split 50-50 if it comes through. That's my little godson, uncle, godfather routine. Keep me close with him while he's gone. I was emotional last night, boys. Your guys are your fathers, all of you. And it's like, I'm a godfather, and just the emotion of realizing that a boy who I've been so close with and will be forever, who I'm like a second dad to, is going off to college. The emotion I felt last night saying goodbye to him after dinner, I can just imagine what you go through as a father or a mother.
My
Yeah,
kid's
It's going to
12.
be tantamount.
My kid's 12. He's already talking about a driver's license. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to tie you to a chair. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm not really going to
Just
tie him
let
to
us
a chair,
know
for the record.
That if there's some bully Sal at SAE fraternity at Oregon, Henry's fucking 6'4" and jab him in the fucking mouth. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. All right, guys.
Henry's ready to go. Rupert's going to be a fucking monster. Let's go, boys. Size
Rupert's-
matters.
Size does matter. They're two big, tall, good-looking boys, man. They got the world by the oyster.
Let's go,
They make it
Henry.
work. Let's go, Henry.
Let's go.
I gave him a little going away, little gift for some spending money and stuff last night. I
What'd
said,
you
but do me a favor, save $200 of this for your very first date with the girl that you like at the University of Oregon, so you can say your first date was on Uncle Bruce.
Aw, I love it. How much you give him, Buff? A couple hundred. So you just said.
I gave him $1,000.
Attaboy,
Nice.
attaboy. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure he's got some
Rupert will get 2 G's when the time comes.
What,
I guess.
inflation?
Well, actually, I gave him 500 last night, but I gave him a $5, a couple weeks ago, and I thought I can't have this dinner and not give him something to say goodbye with.
Dang, I need
You
to
talk
go to
about
college.
monsters. Like this guy was not a monster when he went to college, but after his first semester eating wings all day, he was a monster. This guy was so fat when he came back after his first semester, freshman year in college. And we went to different colleges, and I was like performing in a play. So I was moving around a lot. And we, back then you don't have cell phones. We don't have FaceTime, right? I see this guy at Thanksgiving or whatever, just swole. Just had to get that in. We talked about going to freshman year, but you were big, man.
I'm curious. Like, what has your guys' relationship been like? Obviously, you're twins. You're close and you're tight, and now more than ever, I see Jason with John. But like going back to when you started the Anik and Florian podcast, John, I had no idea you had a twin until you said it on the air, and then for like 6 months, I just thought you were lying to everybody. And sure enough, you do have a twin, and he's hanging out everywhere now.
No, it's been great. I mean, certainly my biggest regret always was not going to college together, just in terms of missed opportunities with the opposite sex. That was a real miss, real big miss life-wise by us not going to the same college. I don't even like talking about it. It was such a big miss just in terms of, that whole experience. But he was going to Florida and I was a sweater and I didn't want to go, chase women in the heat of Florida, basically was how it all went down. But no, it's great to have him on the road, obviously in the MMA space a little bit. Dominic Cruz suggested that now he would annoy me a little bit because we're always together. And that has been, that has proven true. Dominic is a truth teller, if nothing else, but, no, it's great. It is. It's absolutely great. And, we'll see just how far we can take this NFL podcast and everything else, my man,
I'm curious,
you'll
Jason,
take it far.
as John's profile got bigger in the UFC, when you were just out like at the supermarket, were people coming up to you going, are you John Anik?
Well, lately, and just know this has been a grind. We've been working together, and I say we, but him for a long, long time, where I feel like only recently almost like lifting the head up and being like, congratulations a little bit, because it's just been about work forever. But in terms of getting recognized, nobody recognized him at the supermarket in Boca Raton, Florida. Nobody knows who he is. But with this UFC roadshow, it's different than Buffer. Anywhere Buffer goes is going to get recognized. But when we go to these UFC events, yes, he's certainly recognizable. But you would not believe how many fans not only think I'm John, but don't believe me when I tell them that I am not, whether it's talking about the hair or whatever it is. Because in Boston, TJ, I told you this. I had to pull up my ID on the street because some of these fans are like, stop fucking with me. And I'm like, listen, I love you. I appreciate the support, but I don't want to have this conversation anymore. My first name's Jason. Here's my ID. Look at my hair. I'm not the real guy. But yeah, I mean, fans want pictures. They want me to sign, boxing gloves or UFC gloves. I'm like, all right, I'm happy to do it, but sorry to burst your bubble. It happens.
You see,
I think that's
the fact that you have hair and people still don't believe you gives me hope that I can show up for a commentary gig one day with just a thick head of hair. Obviously, it'll be a wig, but people will be like, oh, like what's going on here? You're wearing a wig. Like, no, I just got a haircut. Ask John Anik. He walks around with a man bun when he's not on the air, and then he just takes it off. So that's how it works, dude.
Well, here, let's go over some football.
Cool.
Ready? Okay, and go to the lines. Now, Thursday night is the Giants in San Francisco. San Francisco obviously has proven themselves the last couple of weeks to be one of the two most dominant teams, in my opinion, in the NFL. The Giants are coming off a game where they had the largest comeback in their history in the second half, 20 points down to come back in that game. So they have a tremendous amount of confidence. I got it 11 points. I bought it up to 13 just on a parlay, but I kept it at 11 on the straight bet. Now they're plus 10.5. I still like the Giants and the points on Thursday Night Football. It's a big thing. So I'm going on the confidence factor, even though they didn't play the best team in the world last Sunday in the Cardinals. Your take, guys.
Well, I put out a play on the 49ers minus 10 on our show. And I don't like playing the Thursday night games. And the one thing I'll tell you, Buff, last week, every game that I hit, I felt like I was lucky. Every game that I didn't hit, I felt like I was unlucky. So this league, if you think I'm going to sit here and tell you that I'm sharp and I know the 49ers are going to cover, no, I could see it going either way. But yes, I like the 49ers. The Giants stayed out on the West Coast. Yeah, huge emotional win. I just can't ignore the fact that they were outscored 60-0 in the first 6 quarters of the season. I think there's room for a little bit of an emotional letdown against, to me, the 49ers in their home opener, a team that I see as really the most close to mid-season form of any in the NFL. So I'm going against you there, but I could have bought it down to 9.5. Right. It's right on the number 10. I just think they win by 2 touchdowns. Hey, hopefully it comes in right on 11 and we'll both win.
That's fine. I'll take it. I'll take it all the way. Johnny?
Short week. I would probably be on the underdog side. I would probably take the Giants if forced to bet that game, but thankfully I'm not. My show allows me to pick any 5 games, so we try to avoid the Thursday night or have a little more time to dive in. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. And also the 49ers coming off a tough game against the Rams. So, okay, we'll see what happens. Chargers and the Vikings, even point spread. Don't really have a feel for that game, quite honestly. I think in honor of TJ, I'll go with the Vikings. I've never been a big bettor on the Chargers.
They're both 0-2. They're both 0-2. They're both really good teams. I think in a lot of respects, people believe the Chargers maybe have the higher ceiling. Yeah, not a game I'm diving to the window to bet, but I guess forced to choose, I'd probably be on the Minnesota side just because they have the best player. And I think he's very frustrated. But I don't know, man. That's a really, really tough game. And certainly quarterback edge to LA, but I don't know. You got any feel about? Yeah, well, for me, when I look at the board and I see like a pick'em game, it always makes, I want to bet that game. It always makes me itch to want to play that game. I won't touch that game. But if you're asking me lean, I have a feeling I'm going to wake up Monday morning and the Chargers aren't going to be 0-3. It's going to be TJ's Minnesota Vikings. So
don't you dare call them mine.
Chargers. Sorry, I would lean Chargers, but I will not be putting American dollars on that game.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch the game personally. Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns. So Browns coming off a very rough game on Sunday, losing Chubb and that horrific knee injury. Second time it's happened in the last 4 seasons, last 4 years. I feel, oh God, it's horrible. Browns -3. I'm going to be at home. They're on fire. I'm buying down 2.5 and taking Cleveland.
Yeah, I like Cleveland. I don't like to fade Mike Vrabel, the Tennessee head coach, because I think situationally he does a really good job, but they can't really throw the ball. And Again, not a game that I'm dying to bet, but yeah, I would be aligned with you. Cleveland dealing with some injuries on both sides of the ball, but defensively they are really good. I think they're the better team. I would definitely buy the half point if you can, and it's not too price prohibitive. So yes, agreement there with you on the Cleveland side, but not a game I'm racing to the window to bet.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I like that half a point that you bought down. I'd be on the same side there.
Okay, Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, -9. I don't have a feel for this game.
I just don't think Houston's going to be able to keep up offensively. Forced to choose, I would lay the points with Jacksonville. He does a pool in which he has to bet every game against the spread. Thankfully, I'm not in that noise anymore. But for me, I would be on the Jacksonville side. I think they drop a 30 burger, and I don't think Houston gets to 20.
Yeah, and Jacksonville was disappointing last week, especially offensively. So I look for a bounce back out of them. I also, and I like to look for the blowout on the board, the biggest blowout of the week. That might be it.
Okay. Patriots, Jets at the Jets, Jets +2.5.
I like the Jets. It's +3 right now as we sit here on DraftKings Sportsbook for whatever the heck that is worth. And just a bet on the Jets defense. New England obviously is going to be urgent at 0-2, trying to save their season. The Jets are 1-1, so they have a little bit more wiggle room. But yeah, the Patriots have won 14 straight games in the series. I think that is in great jeopardy this weekend. I'll take 3 in what I think is going to be a very close, low-scoring, quick game.
Cool. Saints, Packers -2 at the Pack.
Oh, I waited till DC got off our show to talk some shit about the Saints. I love the Packers here. They're really banged up, potentially. Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, don't know if they're going to be playing, but I love what I've seen out of Jordan Love. I like the Packers at home. I don't think the Saints get to 3-0. I am not I like Derek Carr, the human being. I do not like Derek Carr, the quarterback. Give me the Packers at home.
Okay, I'll go with you. Miami Dolphins, Denver Broncos, Broncos at the Dolphins, Dolphins -7. I will take, on this one, I'm going with the Dolphins buying down a half point.
So we all love Miami, which probably should give your listenership tremendous pause. Everybody seems to love Miami. It was the only game that we had both in our 5, and the rules of our show are such that we both can't submit the same game. So I had to pivot off of the Dolphins, but oh my gosh, Dolphins -6.5 against Denver. What am I missing, Brucey? What am I missing?
Dolphins, period. Buffalo Bills, Washington.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Mark that fucking game because all of us are aligned on Miami.
Okay.
Pay attention to that one score. Let us know what happens next week.
I will. I'm doing a parlay as we speak, and I'll tell you how it came out. Buffalo Bills, Washington Commanders. Bills -6.5. I got to go with the Bills at Washington.
Well, Buff, you historically play a lot of favorites. I play a lot of underdogs. So maybe it should mean something when I'm on a favorite like Buffalo. I don't know. But yes, I find myself on the Bills a lot because I just think they have a lot of ways to win. They can beat you with offense, defense, and special teams. So, and the Commanders, I just think riding high, coming home after a big win. Not that it's a letdown spot schedule-wise per se, because they have a tough early schedule to begin with, do the Commanders. But yeah, I like Buffalo, man. I think Buffalo could play poorly and put up a fucking 28 burgers. So Buffalo 31, Washington 20.
Got it. They're one of the more powerful teams, and it's not a long flight or bus ride from where they're at to the Washington Commanders. And that, to me, that plays into it too. They're not going cross country for a game. Detroit Lions, Atlanta Falcons, Detroit -3. I'm with Detroit and buying it down. It's not because the favorite. I think Detroit's a good team, and I think they're due for a nice, strong win at home.
I like Detroit a lot. On our show, I had it at 3.5, so I like it even better at 3. I'm still drinking that Dan Campbell Kool-Aid in Detroit. I think they should have beaten Seattle last week. I love Detroit this week. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. I bet them last week and got burned, and I intend to bet them this week too.
Okay. Colts at the Ravens. Ravens -8. I don't have a feel for this one.
Oh, well, for the record, we disagree on that last game. I'm on Atlanta +3.5, and I'm on Indianapolis +8 here. Whether it's Anthony Richardson, a quarterback, or Gardner Minshew, I like those points, man. I like those points. I like the fact that the Ravens, schedule-wise, are sandwiched in between 3 divisional games, 1 last week, 2 coming up after this one. And Indianapolis can score the ball. Ravens are still a work in progress on that side of the ball. So I think Baltimore wins the game outright, but give me the 8 points.
All right, I'm adding them to my parlay based on your advice, John. Appreciate it.
You know, he likes Baltimore. We're split on that one too. That's all right.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm going to go with the other Anik on this one. Seattle Seahawks, Panthers at the Seahawks. Seahawks -6. I have no feel.
It's my favorite bet of the week. Seahawks -6.
Okay, then they're going to the parlay. Okay, got that. All right, next up.
Putting this bet together as if I have information, right? I have hard work and I have research, but I just be careful, man. Follow and fade at your own discretion, Buff. You're scared.
Oh, of course. It's all, listen, it's all, I'm a big boy. I'll make it. Arizona Cardinals +12.5 at home. Dallas Cowboys -12.5. Cowboys are just strong. They're strong.
Oh.
They're just strong. I just don't see the Cardinals pulling this out. 12.5 is a lot of points.
I agree. I mean, watching Dallas play defense, they are almost offensive to the point where with 12 points, it just that Arizona team to blow a 20-point lead, and then you got Micah Parsons coming to town. If forced to bet that game, I'm betting the favorite.
Okay, I'm going with that. Next we've got Bears at the Chiefs. Chiefs -13.
Not a game I'm looking to get involved with.
I'm not going to touch it.
Great.
Steelers at the Raiders. Raiders -2.5. Raiders' first home game. Tough, man. They got nailed last week.
I like Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh didn't do anything offensively, and I think they have to be better on offense. But Kenny Pickett threw so many passes that looked so just rushed and fast and really amateur to me. So he's really got to fix that. But I do not believe in Josh McDaniels as a leader of an organization. Some of the stuff with Chandler Jones going on earlier in the season, I know, Buff, you're tied to that franchise, but I like Pittsburgh's defense enough and think they'll figure out enough on offense to beat the Raiders on Sunday.
Okay.
Monday.
All right, then we got the Monday night games. Again, we have 2 games on Monday night. We got the Eagles. Tampa Bay Bucks, Eagles -5. Obviously, I'm part emotional on this. I'm going with the Eagles. I think they're a very powerful team. The Bucks, how's the defense on the Bucks?
Good. It's looked pretty good. I think you'll get a real sense as to where the Buccaneers are with this particular game. So that should tell you to not bet it. If that's where your mind is, which is where my mind is. But when I see the Eagles get down to 4.5, which I did earlier today, part of me wants to, maybe start thinking about buying points and getting involved. I have the Eagles in a teaser right now, which takes them out the other side to plus. But I'm not going to bet on the Buccaneers. I'll tell you that.
Gotcha. I don't even bet Monday night games until Monday. I don't even put them in any parlays. I don't do anything. I wait until Sunday's over, then I work on Monday night. Jason?
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against it. I think you made a great point about seeing where the Bucks are at. I just think Philly sometimes is tough to figure out it from a gambling standpoint because they're not sort of firing on all cylinders yet. But if forced to bet that line, I don't like that game from a gambling standpoint, but Eagles if forced to choose.
Okay, last game, Rams and the Bengals at the Bengals. Bengals -2.5. The Rams, or the Lambs, as I like to call them, until they perform differently. Again, not a real feel.
Rams this week.
You like the Rams?
I really like the Rams this week. Matthew Stafford is healthy, even if Cooper Kupp is not. That offense is playing in a focused, intentioned way. Joe Burrow, even if he does play for Cincinnati, I think he might not finish the game.
Well, he's got a bad ankle, right?
Calf.
Ooh, the calf injury is tough. That's tough.
It was just his buddy fucking calf kicking him, and now look at him. Just awful. Right?
Is that what happened?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. All right.
Chris Sims made a good point this week talking about, when you have a calf injury, sometimes it can mean that something else is going on and your calf is bugging you because you're favoring it, so it's, but to not be able to drive off that back leg, I think is presenting a problem and limiting their playbook. So Aaron Rodgers, right, this Achilles injury, and he's so ambitious about coming back in January, and power to him. But I was listening to some podcast earlier today, and it's not his plant, right? It's the better leg that this has happened to for it to have happened to with Aaron Rodgers. So that leg can be a little bit weaker and he can still come back. So
interesting comeback for a 39-year-old about to be 40, coming back at this time from what is usually one of the worst injuries you can get in an Achilles. So, but his is supposedly not as bad, but to me, it's still bad. So, okay. With all this being said, here's it is. I just made a 10-team parlay. All right, I bought the points down or up, and here we go. Cleveland Browns -1, Jacksonville Jaguars -7, New York Jets +4.5, Packers -0.5 point, Miami Dolphins -5, Buffalo -4.5, Detroit Lions -1, Indianapolis Colts +10, Seattle Seahawks -4, Dallas Cowboys -10.5. Put $100 down and win $15,784.
Yeah, he loves doing $100 big time parlays like this. So when was the last time you hit one of those?
I hit one last year.
There you go. And I
Yeah.
like all the
And I hit two. I hit two the year before.
a lot of buying points where a lot of those, like the Lions -1. I mean, it becomes almost like a money line bet. I like it, Buff.
Well, when you do a parlay again, and I'll say this, favorite or dog, take the whatever, buy down or buy up as many points as possible, and just put your parlay together. The return is so huge. That 15,000, if I didn't buy up or down, would probably be 30 or 40.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't mind. I'd be
real
happy
quick-
as hell if I won that.
Real quick before you wrap up the sports talk, you guys mentioned you like Miami. I like Miami as well, but I'm not talking about the Dolphins. I'm talking about the boys that wear pink. MLS, Inter Miami, led by Lionel Messi. They're 7.5 to 1 underdogs to win the entire league. They're the second to last place team right now. They've been killing it. They need to get top 9 to make the MLS playoffs, and it is incredibly fun to watch. I fell in love with soccer during the pandemic, and the moves that MLS made to get Lionel Messi over here has just locked in a soccer fan in me, and I'm watching all the time on Apple TV.
Yeah, that whole deal blows me away. It's amazing.
He turned down
Incredible.
like
No, that's great.
$1.6 billion to not go to the Saudi League. The fact that he turned that kind of money down to come here and be a part of something special is pretty cool.
Listen, I would never leave the UFC, but a certain amount of money cuts a lot of family ties.
You're leaving for
1.6
$1.6 billion. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I probably would leave the UFC for 1.6 billion. Definitely. Anyway, I'm not going anywhere. I told you it's going to be tough. Right down in the octagon. That's going to be it right there, baby. Totally. Not for 10 years or more, please.
25, 30 maybe.
Yeah. We'll see.
And then the hologram's going to come in. Buffer's going to be doing the UFC 100 years from now.
Nah, we'll leave that for Anik with his amazing voice and amazing commentary.
I'm busy.
All
My
right,
son
guys.
is going to be a physical education teacher at his school. So trying to figure out a way, and I'm not even kidding, right? Really. How could I get credentialed to actually even compete as far as that is concerned? If I win the lottery, be a PE teacher, would I even be able to compete? I wasn't some athlete, no degree in sports science or nutrition. I might be in real trouble,
I feel like
Maybe.
nowadays, physical education is not what it was when we were kids. Like back in the day, it was just,
correct.
go play some
It's
softball.
nowhere near.
Yeah, it's not a pole tucked into a pair of warm-up joggers,
I'm not going to lie to you. This happened to me. It sounds make-believe. It's the only fight I quote-unquote ever won in my life. But my first gym class in first grade of elementary school, they decided for whatever reason we were going to wrestle, right? And I thought it was pro wrestling. Everyone else thought it was pro wrestling. I get paired up with this kid who has no business standing next to me on a wrestling mat because he's like a half a foot shorter than me. I trip him, drop the leg, Hulk Hogan style, go for the pin. I got sent to the principal's office, and that was the last real fight I was ever in.
Hey, I hold the record at 14 years old in Pennsylvania for the fastest pin in Pennsylvania in school wrestling. Trouble was, it was my first match. I went up against the state champion, and he pinned me in like about 5.5, 6 seconds.
That's amazing.
Well, and Buff's still picking fights, right? Like he gives me a bad rap. He thinks I'm like an instigator, right? Buff's picking fights with Sean Strickland in 2023. No,
Yeah, that's called media. That's media putting together. And Sean and I got along great in Australia, all school.
I think Strickland beats you, but whatever.
Yeah, I think I personally would lay the farm on Strickland also, all good. It's okay. I can take a beating and go cash a check. It's all right. All right, guys, listen, it's been a pleasure having you both on. Love you guys. We had a great time bonding. As always, John, we're brothers. We're road warriors together. Jason, you're joining the team. We've definitely been on the road together. Expect to see you on the road more. You're two of my favorite people in my professional and my private life, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show, and can't thank you enough for being the true gentleman and cool people that you are.
Means a ton, man. Appreciate those words. So much love for you. Been such a joy to get to know you. And this last week was more, I got to spend time with you in a different way. You had me crying, laughing multiple times. So never got to hang out with you quite like that. That was special for me.
Thank you. Me too. No question.
I wish I would have got
do it
the
again.
invite. I was in town on Thursday night. I wish I would have got the invite.
That's the old.
Sorry about that, TJ.
Won't happen again.
Oh, it
Yep.
will, but it's okay.
I was
you didn't
invited. I
know.
wasn't
You
the
didn't know.
invitor.
You didn't know. Sorry.
It's all good. All right. So, John, you're not in Vegas this week for the UFC. I won't be in Vegas this week for the UFC. I will see you in Abu Dhabi. That's the next time I see you because October 7th. You going to be in town for October 7th?
No, thank you. Don't tell anyone. He's staying here.
Okay. Got it. And by the way, you're home, Jason.
I'm getting
Beautiful.
my ankle repaired.
Is that a joke?
I'm getting my ankle repaired. I'll see you in Abu Dhabi.
All right. I'll see you in Abu Dhabi. I'm looking forward to the Abu Dhabi show. That's going to be awesome. All right, guys. Parting ways. Jason, you first. Say, promote, anything you want.
Oh, check out Anik Squared and remember the show and the Anik and Florian podcast. And my boy TJ. I just want to shout out my boy TJ. I had a great time doing extra rounds with TJ. Hopefully, we're going to be doing it again in New York with Bilal Muhammad. So much love for my boy TJ too.
Thank you,
Johnny.
Well, I would like to thank everybody for indulging us in a little NFL talk today. If you want more of that, Anik Squared is on the DraftKings YouTube channel, the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, the Anik and Florian Podcast, originally produced by TJ DeSantis, going loud and proud. 9-year anniversary coming up next year. Video on the DraftKings YouTube channel, audio wherever you ingest your podcasts. And yeah, great to have a little recreational time with Bruce Buffer for the first time in a long time. And you know, we're on to Abu Dhabi, but time to unwind and bet the NFL for the next 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead, TJ.
I host a show on UFC Fight Pass called Extra Rounds. You can see me and Ray Longo, who I stole from the Anik and Florian podcast. Ray's so great over there. They only give him a Ray Longo minute. We give him the whole show. He's a star of Extra Rounds. You can check that out coming up on Friday. And then that's pretty much it at TJ DeSantis.
All right. And like I said, I'll be back in the Octagon October 7th. I'm going to enjoy some downtime. I certainly got plenty of other things to work and do while I'm out. I want to tell everybody that my new undisputed Puncher's Chance single barrel bourbon is out on the market. It's been out for 2 months and platinum and gold awards right out of the gate. Top seller. Very proud of that. With that being said, everybody, again, John, Jason, thank you so much. Thank you. Go ahead.
Strickland, you should send Sean Strickland a case of that shit, you know? He doesn't drink.
Yeah, he's probably I would think he probably enjoys it. I didn't think about that when I was riding to the airport.
I don't think he drinks.
I don't think he drinks either.
Interesting. He's an interesting cat. He really is. But I'll check in next time I see him now that we're talking face to face. All good. All right, guys, thanks for being on the show. TJ, as always, I'll see you next week. Everybody, set your goals, write them down. So when you step on that yellow brick road to your future, you have the knowledge and the proof to be the best you can be. And if you're the best you can be, whether you're winning, champion, number 1, number 10, doesn't matter. Be the best you can be, because then you're winning, truly, by being the best example. Be a role model to your sphere of influence, and just love life. Have a safe week. Everybody take care, and I'll see you next week. Buffer out. Thanks, boys.